Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Joy, how are you this morning, ma'am?
I'm well, I'm well, thank you. I want to figure out a way to get my phone propped up and charged at the same time.
I have so listen. I mean, I have like my dominoes, my marble dominoes tray, holding up my phone so
Well,
that
we got to
yeah.
do. So give me a second to get situated. But
Okay,
I'm here.
sounds good. Good morning, everyone. Glad everyone, or actually afternoon now. I'm glad everyone is able to make it. Um, there we go. You all set up. You're good to go.
Hey, I'm good to go.
All right, that's what's up. Well, yeah, man, we appreciate everyone who's joining in. I know we'll probably give a couple minutes for people to get logged in and we'll get ready to go. As everyone knows, closed-minded is something that we do. We try to do every week. We were off last week, blame coronavirus, but now I mean, we try not to just hop on live if there's nothing meaningful for us to talk about. So we had a week off, but we're back this week. Obviously, one of the things that we try to talk about is just things that are going on, obviously in the culture, how that's affecting, the brand. If there's product releases that we have coming out, we'd love to try to talk about the ethos of those collections and the ideas, and we engage friends that we've developed relationships with in the industry over the years. So typically that's what we do, but today we're going to do something a bit different. Obviously, with everything that's been going on with COVID-19, I think at this point we're on like week 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the conversations that we've had over the past few weeks, there's been like these emotional check-ins and how people are coping and how people are, responding, to having to be not just working from home, some people being out of jobs, but then also like just this new normal that we're in. And so I have a very close friend of mine who happens to be an esteemed therapist and counselor, Joy Ssebikindu. Joy, appreciate you joining us today.
Absolutely. I feel really honored that you would invite me. It's so funny because I almost put on that sweatshirt.
Hey, man, it's all good. It's all good. So before we dive into the questions, again, everyone who's been on here before knows that we spend about the first 30 to 40 minutes, um, doing a deep, just a kind of an introduction. Well, excuse me, let me back up. We spend the first 30, 45 minutes doing a question, going back and forth conversation between the two of us. And then from there, we open it up to have people ask questions. So if anyone has any questions, feel free. There's a question box that should be available to you guys, as well as you can always just drop the questions in the comments, and we'll pick them up from there. So yeah, so Joy, yeah, do me a favor. You go ahead and kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are the person who we should be taking advice from and being counseled from today.
Gosh, that's a big order.
Yeah.
What I can do is tell people a little bit about me and what I do and my background experience. You know, I have spent the last couple of years really speaking nationwide on mental health and more particularly really discussing with clinicians of all backgrounds the importance of diversity and inclusion and just the reality that mental health presents very differently depending on who you are and what you're coming into the room with. And so I'm the owner and a psychotherapist at my private practice called Anchored Wellness and Psychotherapy. I have worked all levels of care from outpatient to residential programs, inpatient. I used to actually be clinical director at a residential treatment center for several years. And so
Mm.
see what mental health can do and how it disrupts individuals and families and systems, but also really believe that we are capable of resiliency. Um, and that process is such a beautiful thing to watch. And so I really believe that it's my calling to walk with people through some of the toughest parts of their lives. So that's a little bit about me. I don't have specific questions about, but in short, that is my resume.
Gotcha. And again, how long have you been practicing for?
Gosh, for nearly a decade. I
Whew.
have had private practice Yeah, don't age me. I've been in private practice for 5 years, and so I started my private practice in Roswell, and currently practice in Midtown. I have a lot more telemental nowadays, so I get to practice in the comfort of, my home right now.
Okay. So after this, if like people have questions or need, to reach out to you, they'll be able to do so.
Absolutely. I
Okay.
mean, beautiful job of, but I am the only Georgia can do in Georgia, in the city. And so you guys are more than welcome to find any type of name. You'll get awesome information. And I believe that we can share information in some format.
Yeah, we will.
We
We'll make sure that everyone gets access to that.
absolutely. You guys are more than welcome to reach out. And I really do believe that, who you work with of this part of their lives is so important. So I recognize that I may not be for everyone. We do offer 50 complimentary so that you and I simply get to talk together about what's going on, things that you want to work on.
Hmm.
I can really work collaboratively with you to come up.
So, yeah, you're sounding a bit choppy. Um, you got the Teddy Riley thing going on right now.
Yay!
Oh,
Is it a little bit better, or maybe I should just change positioning? I'll hold it for a little.
okay.
All
All
right,
right, cool.
if that works better.
All right, so let's go ahead. We'll dive into the questions. Again, if
Yeah.
anyone has any questions at any point, go ahead and just drop them in the comments as we're going. So, I want to kind of start off with a baseline because I know people have different definitions as far as what therapy is versus counseling, emotional health, mental health. So yeah, how would you, is there separation, between mental health and emotional health? And if so, what is it? And if not, how do they work together?
Yeah. I mean, in honesty, I think there's a lot of people who use those terms interchangeably, just like therapy or counselor or life coach, another one.
Hmm.
What really defines those things is really just training. So as people are looking into getting mental health care, I think the things that you should look for are really kind of taking a look at people's credentials and licensures and making sure you're working with someone who has the training to be able to
Okay.
support you at different points of your life. So when it comes to mental health, I like to think of it as more holistic. What I do, the therapy that I provide, is really support people and looking at the connection between their thoughts, their emotions, and behaviors. If at any point those things are a little bit off, it tends to lead to the other side of things. So when you think about mental health, I would think of the whole person.
Got you, got you. And so one thing I want to go back to, well, there's two things. One, you were talking about credentials and making sure that people got the proper credentials before
Yeah.
you go get therapy, counseling work from them. What exactly can you explain your credentials again and what they mean? Like, are you a doctor? Are you a specialist? Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's definitely different certifications that people can get along the way. Certification does not necessarily mean licensure. So as a therapist licensed by the state, I do hold national credentials, but my license is really what allows me to practice in the way that I'm able to practice. And so I'm able to assess, I'm able to diagnose. And so someone with just a certification, perhaps who doesn't have the education, won't be able to give you the same level of service.
Got you. Got you. Got you. Got you. Okay. And is there a difference between counseling and therapy, or is that all kind of one and the same?
Yeah, it's interchangeable. And I mean, I moved from D.C., and I think if I was still in today, people would still call me a counselor.
Okay.
Here in Georgia, probably the most common words that you will hear are therapist or psychotherapist.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay, cool. All right. So I want to dive into, again, just like this current context that we're in right
Yeah.
now. So COVID-19,
Mhm.
pretty much, the country is on lockdown. Obviously, there have been some changes that have been made in the last couple of days about certain businesses being reopened, but for the most part, everything is shut down. Um, there are obviously a lot of transitions and shifts that people have been going through, and that's something that we've talked about on study breaks over the last few weeks. So I'm curious, like, from on your end, just as you're dealing with patients and clients, what are some of the mental and emotional challenges that you're seeing people facing in this new transition?
Sure, sure. And I hate to use the term because I think it's all over media, but these are unprecedented times. They really are, from the standpoint that we are all going through this together.
Mm.
And so I was talking to a client about just kind of the current struggle, and a little bit of self-disclosure. I was able to kind of share with them, hey, I am right there. And
Yeah.
oftentimes when I am in the seat and being someone's therapist, I'm removing the situation. So I'm able to have a little bit more perspective. I'm able to provide a lot more support because I'm grounded on the so what we are seeing is this universal shift of everybody being impacted in their respective. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who are emotionally isolated, who are losing their jobs, who
Mm.
are watching loved ones get sick and unfortunately pass away. So there's a lot going on.
Mm. How are people, is there any specific, I know you said like everyone's situation is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But um, are there some common threads that you guys are seeing, across, communities right now? And I would also even say, especially like the African American community. I know we're kind of late to the party with getting therapy and
Yeah.
counseling, but what are some of the things that you guys are seeing within our space?
Yeah. So we are collecting a lot. So every week I do a group of therapists and we check in what we are seeing. I just have a lot of the acute hospitals in the area. So we are seeing a lot of that directly to the psychiatric facilities, with concerns of suicide ideations, with fear and concern that they harm themselves, a lot of uncertainty, increase in substance use. We are seeing a tremendous increase there, as well as sex addiction picking up as people.
Hold on 1 second. I just got a word that is still kind of choppy and there's an
Okay,
echo.
on my end,
Um,
it's a little echoey on yours.
he says a little echoey on mine. Oh, you know what? That may be the room on that. Let me just change rooms.
Okay,
And that may also be the reason for the echo.
I'm loving the natural light that we're seeing.
Say it again.
That I'm loving the natural light that we're seeing.
Yeah. All right. Let's see if that fixes it.
Okay, let me know if I need to shift and move as
Okay.
well.
All right. Cool. Though. All right. All right. We'll go ahead and go.
Okay, we're good. Okay, so we're seeing an increase in substance use, sexual deviancy as well. Just a lot of people have idle time, and so what we seek to do when we have this idle time is we seek to kind of cope the best way that we can. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, sometimes the way that we cope is not the healthiest for us long term.
Fair. So, how are you guys? So, let's take. You said substance abuse. You said sexual deviancy. What do you describe as sexual deviancy? Deviancy.
Well, we did have in this world a popular porn site that offer their subscriptions for heavily discounted rates and free, and
Yeah.
so we're usage of that increasing, and we know that sex addiction is very real as well as addiction to substances.
Got it. So how are you guys responding to that? Like what are some of the things that um yeah, how do you walk someone through that process? Like if there are people on the line right now who say like, hey, you know, and actually even before you even get to the counseling, what are some ways that people can tell like, hey, this has become a problem for me. This is
Yeah.
something that, I see has been regular behavior and I just seem to be doing it more now because there's more time or yeah, how are people able to tell like, yeah, like there's a problem here that I need to address?
Yeah, I think that's where community is really important. Most of our diagnostic criteria that comes from the DSM is on
Hmm.
the spectrum. So, for instance, we all have felt down at some point. Grief is very normal. So, how we know when something is really an issue is comparative to the general population. So, is
Okay.
someone grieving longer than the typical person would be grieving? Or is someone more depressed than that typical average person who may be going through something? I fully anticipate that people are anxious right now. Whether you have a history of mental health issues or not, we are all sitting in this uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it would be of concern if you find that this person is not able to hold some semblance of hope,
Mm-hmm.
um, or perhaps not able to kind of move forward as the world moves forward with more information.
Got it. And so, what do you do with, a world where there's counter information that's coming from multiple ends, right? I mean, so there's the things that people see on social media and all the conspiracy theories, but then you have the governor that says, hey,
Yeah,
well, first the president saying like, hey, we're going to be open on Easter. And then you have, the governor of Georgia who's saying, yeah, let's go ahead and open things back up. And then you got the mayor who's saying, hey, guys, our recommendation is that you don't go in. How do people shift and sift through all of those different
yeah,
thoughts?
yeah. Well, again, there's a lot of information coming our way.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this need to always try to find some balance in it. You're right. The world and the information that we are given and the overload is not helping. It's
Yeah.
not. And so what I would say to that and what I've advised some of my clients to do is take that information in stride. Uh,
Okay.
I always encourage people to start a little bit closer to home and start more local before they expand.
Okay.
Because the more sites that you see, and I do find this, there's a lot of people who are just searching for information. And so they spend all day collecting that data from all these different sources, and it
Yeah.
feeds their anxiety. So when you're searching for that information, really search for credible people who do know what they're talking about and who can
Mm-hmm.
provide facts over the fear and the anxiety that's being, you know,
Are there any reputable sites that you would or um, partitions that you would recommend saying, hey, check these people out. This is a good source or a safe source for people to go to.
yeah, I mean, we have the CDC in our backyard. And so
Right.
I have encouraged people to look at those sites as opposed to their respective news outlets that are really just kind of giving opposite information. So I would stick to one or the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. So I want to touch bases back on something you talked about as far as grieving.
Mhm.
Some people could take a look at this and say, hey, no one died in my family. I still have my job. You know, why would I be grieving? Right. What are some things that people, first, like, what would you say to that? And then also, how can a person even tell if they're grieving?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always take, the position that you know yourself best. And so I can't project a particular grief on someone if they're not quite feeling that. For
Hmm.
some people, they start to feel emotionally right when something happens and they're triggered. For
Hmm.
some people, they process and things hit them a little bit later. And so I would encourage people to always kind of check in with themselves. You might
Hmm.
not stay, but also recognizing that there's a lot of people who are. And so you're right, not everyone has lost their job, and not everyone knows people who are, have been diagnosed with COVID. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But there is a large group of people that are experiencing a lot of loss right now. And so I think it's important to validate that experience.
That's important. And you talked about like community being a big issue. And people are separate right now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I know there are people who aren't married and have kids, or they can't be with their parents. How are you counseling people to stay connected and through this period,
Yeah.
to have a sense of community? I know people are doing like Zoom happy hours and stuff like that, but like what are some things that you would recommend for people to be able to stay connected to?
Yeah. I think that spans the gamut. You're probably going to get really tired of me by the end of this because it's so individual. I have
Okay.
so many friends who perhaps are single and they are like loving this.
Hmm.
this is time for them to kind of work on themselves and clean closets and, organize. And that's their makeup. That is their
Yeah.
personality. Are naturally introverted. And then you have people like myself who are extremely extroverted and who thrives on being able to connect emotionally and
Hmm.
physically with people. And so for me, it's great to connect with people via Zoom,
Okay.
but it's not the same.
Right.
It's not the same. And I don't want to take that away from people who really enjoy it. There are people who are connecting with people that they normally wouldn't have. And so there's a beauty in being able to use this new technology that we have. And from a therapeutic standpoint, there's a lot of clients who are coming back into therapy because the access is there. Um, and so I think it's
Mm.
important for people to kind of check in with themselves and figure out what their emotional needs are. And so if that is calling people or reaching out to people or driving over to someone's neighborhood and doing a walk at a safe distance, do what works for you.
Yeah, one of the homies, they came over on Saturday, and we just sat in the front yard.
Yeah.
I think it was a safe distance. I didn't have my measuring stick, but we just sat there and played, listened to music, and played pool on our phones. You know what I'm saying, for a couple hours.
Okay. How,
Yeah,
how do you do that? How do you like,
game pitching, game pitching on your iPhone.
hmm,
It's a winner.
okay.
It's a winner, man. So okay, what I know you talked about like all these different pockets of people, right? Um, so let's go to the introvert,
Yeah.
right? I've heard people say like, "Oh, I could do this for a whole nother month," and then a month comes around, and it's like, "Nah, that's so much. I'm ready to
Yeah.
get out the house." Right? What do you like? Even for people who are more comfortable with being by themselves, um, what? Yeah, what are some things that I think that if that's their natural bend, then it's like, hey, I know how to operate in this space. But what are some things that you would tell them to be cautious about? As far as isolation
Mm-hmm.
and being by themselves.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's important when you distinguish between an introvert and extrovert is really
Mm,
paying attention to how they build energy. Regardless of whether you identify as an introvert or extrovert, we're still built for connection. We're
mm,
built for relationships. We are. And so, even the greatest introvert might need to recharge at home and in isolation, but there's still this expectation that they're connecting with people and participating in society.
yeah.
And so, what I would say to the introvert is do whatever self care you need to do to recharge.
Okay.
Isolation doesn't mean just kind of laying in your bed. You could be an introvert laying in your bed and not feel the charge that you need in order to participate in the world.
Yeah.
And I want to be careful of endorsing this isolation because mentally it's not the best thing for us. There is a reason why solitary confinement is one of the greatest punishments that someone can receive.
Right. Yeah. So solid. So the difference between being introvert and solitary confinement. Um. Yeah, I know for me personally, and I've had some of my friends, kind of get on me. They're like, every 3 days you're out the house doing something, and it's like, well, I mean, I'm not trying to, um, like in my own mind, like I'm not trying to, break the rules and whatnot. However, I do get to a space where, like I said, that human connection is important.
Yeah.
Being able to touch bases with people, even if it's not really a full conversation, but just to know, hey, there's other humans out here that are living and breathing. That's super important. Um, for the extrovert, right? I guess the same question. What are some things that they can be considering? And again, there are so many different extroverts that are out there, right? So no one person is the same. But if you could give some general encouragement, or things to consider about, hey, we know that you're an extrovert, we know that you love being out, and around people, but these are some things in this time that you could consider just for, again, your holistic health.
Yeah. And both sides of that, there's really a need for some radical acceptance right now. In my
Mm,
world, yes, we would be connecting with people. We would be sharing space with people. You would be able to kind of feel that energy. And sometimes we just can't do it. Like
yeah.
we just can't. Like there are so many things that are at risk here, to defy that. And so I can only really speak for myself on the extrovert end. Although I need some energy, there is a
Right.
need to radically accept where we are. And I have a responsibility to try to get what I need however I can. And so for me, it is some radical acceptance and finding some sense of quality engagement.
Yeah.
That,
Got it. Nah, man. We appreciate that. That's good. You talked just, we're talking about community still being connected to society, this thing of radical acceptance, not just, loafing around. Like there's a number of ways that, obviously people can treat, their the grieving process or the things that they're experiencing, right? Clearly, Honor Roll is a clothing brand. We sell clothes. We want everyone to buy as much Honor Roll as possible, right? And this kind of goes back to a little bit, what we were talking about just ways that people are responding. Um, as I talk to a lot of, the people that are in the fashion space and just people who are in the business of selling product, online shopping right now is like through the roof. And it's through the roof because people are consistently on their phones, right? And it's not to say that buying stuff is bad.
yeah.
However, I do want to ask the question about just like the notion of retail therapy. I like that's a real thing. People feel bad, or they want to feel better and they go shopping.
Yeah.
As much as we would love for everyone to just go online and, shop with Honor or anywhere for that matter, what are some healthy ways to engage buying habits at this particular juncture? And again, I know that this is going to be a broad
Yeah.
response because people are different, but what are some healthy ways to engage retail therapy, and what are some ways yeah, you might want to stay away from that?
Sure. And I feel the need to be really clear. Retail therapy is not a therapeutic endorsement by a licensed
Oh, so that's
professional.
not a real thing.
It definitely has some concepts, right? So the reality is there are a lot of things that we do to take care of ourselves to really increase the dopamine levels, just frankly. We get excited when we like the things that we buy. We get excited with nice things. And so there is some truth that, the chemical responses when we are shopping and dressing well and presenting ourselves to the world in a way that we could be proud of, they do have some implications. But that's not necessarily.
You there, Joy?
People are home. You're buffering. Are you there? Okay, there you are. You there?
Yeah, now I am. There we go.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, you're buffering. Oh, lost my train of thought. Retail therapy. There is a reality that people are at home more in front of their computers, and you're absolutely right. There's probably a ton of retail therapy happening. What I would say to people is, great, if you're doing what you need to do to kind of take care of yourself and to purchase items that will help you feel good, sounds like a good thing. And the other side of that is we do have to be fiscally responsible. So I think if I was endorsing, yep, just shop until you drop without consideration to the reality that people are losing their jobs, the economy is going to be a little bit different once we open up fully. And there's a need to kind of find some balance to that. I think it would be a little bit irresponsible of me to support.
Okay. So you do not support retail therapy?
I am supporting dressing well and doing what you need to do to kind of meet your needs. And it's not an either or, it's an and. And I think there is a need for you to find some balance and be fiscally responsible.
Got it. Because then people will be coming to you because like they got all these crazy credit card bills and now they got anxiety, which is good for you because they're paying for your services. But then, They in crazy debt. I
afford
get
it.
it. I
They
get it.
spend their money. So there's a balance, right?
Right.
Most of what we strive for as humans is to find some homeostasis. Like we need to find balance in this world. And
Yeah.
so, yes, I want people to feel confident walking in this world, but there's a sense of responsibility that also kind of falls into that confidence category.
Got it. Got it. So we have just a couple more questions that I want
Yeah.
to work through. But so this would be the time that if any of you guys have questions, to go ahead and start dropping them in the comments. And then as soon as we wrap up our questions, we'll go ahead and start addressing those questions. But um, you had mentioned about you mentioned just about feeling good, and even just like the reality of how dressing
Mm-hmm.
um, impacts how people feel and see themselves, right? Like what is the importance of like people putting clothes on? Like I know for me, I was like in not this hoodie, but hoodies and the sweats for like the first 2 weeks straight. Like I really was. I mean, I brushed my teeth and hygiene and stuff was still on point, but yeah, but I wasn't. Yeah, like I wasn't getting prepared like as if like I was getting my regular day started, right? What are some, does that even matter? Or, is there some legitimacy to people actually getting up, putting clothes on, and trying to find like some kind of rhythm within their day?
Sure, absolutely. And yes, it does matter. We talked a little bit earlier just about the complexity of mental health. It's not just your emotions, it's your thoughts, it's your behaviors. And what we know, kind of one thing can kind of shift another. And so the
Yeah.
things that we're talking about in terms of behavior and getting up and following a routine have a way to kind of give us those boosts of energy that we need in order to kind of carry on throughout the day. And so I think about, you know, um, you and me and a whole group of people that transitioned their work into their home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very clearly, you're not dressing for the office every day. And sometimes
Yeah.
wearing suits and wearing heels can be uncomfortable. And so, yeah, I'm not walking around here in heels. And so there was a lot of people who kind of went back into leggings and went back into sweats, and it was doable.
Yeah.
But when we think about our behavior and how it impacts our mood, that more relaxed, less structured tendency has an ability kind of to push into the direction of depression. And so, what I
Mm.
have encouraged people to do is not put on a suit every day, but actually do something that is worth your self care every single day. I have a colleague who said this in one of our meetings earlier, and I was like, I love that. Do something, at least mentally and physically, that stimulates you every day. And getting
Mm-hmm.
dressed, putting on makeup, doing something will kind of give you that burst of energy that you need to kind of carry on and increase your motivation. So that's where I think the importance of getting dressed is really relevant in this day and age.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So I'm gonna hold my last question a little bit towards the end,
Sure.
because there was one question that popped up that I want to address. It's from Reese's PC's '08. What recommendations do you have for those grieving major life events, graduations, weddings, babies, etc.? Yeah, like I know I got a friend right now. They're expecting their first baby. What a time to have children, right?
Yeah.
I got a number of homies who can't go to graduations. Weddings have been canceled.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have? Yeah, what kind of what kind of things could you recommend for them as they're going through their grieving process?
Sure. Well, firstly, I want to validate that experience. I mean, what a time to be going through a life event. You're absolutely right. It's not something that anybody could have predicted. And still, there are a lot of things that are happening. You can't hold off having a baby. Um, there's some things that
Hmm.
have to happen. And so I would suggest those people who are supporting loved ones who are going through really tough times just to validate that experience and really kind of
You're kind of going in and out, Joy.
support them in
Your
recognizing
connect
how
your
hard it
connection's a bit weird.
Okay. Is it weird? Still weird? I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep talking.
Yeah.
Okay. Still weird or
It's still choppy. It's still choppy.
all right, let's see what we can do. All right. I'm gonna keep talking. You let me know when it's clear.
Yeah. We got ever since Teddy and them, you know what I mean, messed up the internet over these past couple of days, man. It's been hard for all of us.
They messed up the whole internet. All right.
Yeah.
Still choppy?
The whole IG. Yeah, but it's still a little choppy. Keep talking.
Okay, I'm gonna keep talking. I'm also being careful because my entire
All
house
right.
is not clean, so I'm going to keep y'all close.
Fair enough.
All right. Is this okay? We're good. Again, if you're a supporter of someone who's going through a life event, absolutely validate their experience. Nothing is worse than kind of hearing, yeah, but it could be worse, right? So recognize that kind of sitting with someone
Yeah.
means,
Joy.
oh, still,
And repeat everything you just said because it completely froze up on us.
oh no. Okay, so if you're a supporter, I would encourage you to validate the person that you are supporting if they're going through a life event. Am I still clear? Or no?
You're clearer. Yeah.
Clearer.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good. Just don't
I
move.
don't know what's
Don't
going
move.
on. Don't move. Stay right here. I'm standing next to the router.
Okay.
If you are going through a life event, I would really encourage you to find those anchors that you can grab a hold of. It really is the inspiration behind my private practice. Finding those anchors that can ground you into reality, like your faith, your family, your friends, something tangible that you can hold on to so
Hmm.
that you don't get swept away by the storm.
Yeah. How do people? So, I mean, that may that's great. And how do people identify those anchors, right? Like, how do people, especially like people don't have, say, great
Yeah.
relationships with family members, um, or like you said, like there's this whole other section of people who, have the bend towards, being an introvert. What are some things that you could say, hey, these are some key ways to be able to identify some of the anchors in your life, or maybe this is the time to start developing some of them.
Yeah, I love that. I love the development of it. You can always develop anchors. And so, what I encourage my clients to do is start small.
Mm,
If we are sitting in a chair, the thing that I can be sure of is that, you know what, in this moment, this chair is going to hold me up. If I have nothing else to
mm,
fall back on, this chair has my back.
mm.
And I work with my clients on being able to identify those things. It is so small to think of the blessing of a chair.
Yeah.
Um, but when we have something that we can hold on to, something that we can find of value, we tend to be able to look differently at the things that we could tap into. So, although I might not have the greatest relationships with the people I want to have relationships with, you know
Hmm.
what? I still have their phone numbers. There's still some hope there. I
Yeah.
can reach out if I need to at any point.
Okay. Cool. Cool. So again, guys, feel free if there are any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I do want to ask this last question.
Sure.
Um, one of the things that we like, the ethos of honor roll is this notion of the process of excellence,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's less about like accomplishing the set goal or even, doing this thing that you've always wanted to do, and more so the process that you go through to get to that place and the person that you become throughout that process. We are clearly all in a process right now, right? Like I said, these are times in which, we haven't had to navigate this before. You know, what are, and I feel like we've talked about it a lot through our time today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what has been your process to 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 achieve excellence, getting past this particular space that we're in? Like, what's been your process to maintain a holistic sense of health and wellness? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in recognizing that everyone's process is probably going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I think for me, from a clinical end, I've encouraged a lot of people just to lean into that process. A lot of times, especially when we're
Okay.
sitting in episodes of discomfort, we want to, I'm tired of feeling
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable. I'm ready for the other side. And what we end up doing subconsciously is making that process a lot longer. When
Yeah.
we try to get to the other side, we really miss what we're supposed to be getting. And so I will be honest in saying that my process oscillates. I absolutely want us to get to the other side of that, and I'm hopeful that we will. I
Yeah.
do think we'll have a new normal. But until I'm able to kind of sit and be present and really take in every aspect of what's going on right now, I'm not going to have perspective. I'm not going to have appreciation for this time. So there's something beautiful about being able to recognize that when we are sitting in feelings of discomfort, it's an opportunity for us to gather data so that when we get out of it, we have a greater appreciation for the things that are to come. So my process is a little twofold. It's holding the
Mm-hmm.
balance of being hopeful
Mm-hmm.
and also kind of recognizing where I currently am. And for those people who have perspective, we've all gone through things. May not be the size of this global pandemic, but we have gone through things. And there have been other viruses that have hit the world historically.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to kind of draw from that, knowing that this is going to be quite some time. And my job is really big to come. And there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people that I feel like I am currently supporting and who will come to me later on for support. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
important for me to do my process so that I am able to support the people who haven't yet gotten to that point where they realize what's happening and the impact that it's going to have on them.
Yeah. Like one of the things I love about what you just said was, um, the need to be able to support to other people. And so like I think it's so easy for us to get into this selfish state to where we
Yeah.
think that it's all about us. And like one of the I've always this has always been true for me, and I've seen it work for a lot of other people. Like one of the best ways to kind of get over that process, or to even be able to pinpoint, ways, like I said, for me to get out of my own way, is
Mm-hmm.
to like start looking at, man, like what does it look like for me to be able to care for other people throughout all this? What
Yeah.
are some ways that I can be of support? Yeah, I'm going through things, but so is someone else, and so how can I look to engage people to help one create that community and be of a support, for someone who may not necessarily have all those tools.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to kind of challenge you on one thing.
Okay.
Um, you use the word but. And if you were in my office, I probably would have thrown a pillow at you or something.
Okay. When did I say but?
Well, you said that you're going through things, but other people are too.
Oh, and so it should be
Yeah,
and
it's an and.
validation. There we go. Hold on, you chopped all up. You chopped all up. Come back, Joy.
That was some I just said too. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Um.
No?
It's buffering. There you go.
Okay, you can hear me.
Yeah,
We're gonna try it. Okay.
we
Um,
cannot hear
not
you.
here.
Oh, go on to Teddy. We can't hear you.
I'm you can hear me. Still can't hear me?
Okay. All right, there we are. We can kind of hear
You're
you.
buffering.
There you
Can
go.
you hear
Stay
me?
right there.
Cool.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah.
Are we
We
there?
cannot hear you.
All right, still can't hear me?
Uh, Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna start talking. You can hear
All
me.
right,
Okay,
there
the
you
reason
go.
I challenge you on it, Anne, is your experience matters too. And when you take
Yeah,
yourself out of the equation, you're not able to go through your process so that you can then help other people.
got you.
It's a both and.
Both and.
Both and.
I'll definitely make sure that, and language matters, man, because I think, like, we'll say things and it's like it'll just roll off our tongues, so cleanly, and we don't realize the implications of what we're saying and how that, affects us, yeah, mentally, and how we actually respond. So I appreciate. Do I owe you? Do I get an invoice for that? Or was that on the love?
That was a free little nugget. That was a free little nugget.
Okay. So into those free little nuggets, just kind of as we wrap up, if someone was on here and they said, "Hey, we'd love to get in contact with you to talk through some things," what if you can in the comments, because it's already pretty choppy? Could you drop down in the comments, your office number or email or website that people can be able to reach out to you at?
Absolutely. I will definitely do that. My private practice information will be in the comments in just a few, but Anchored Wellness Psychotherapy, located in Midtown.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, hey, Joy, I appreciate you hopping on with us. Yeah, this is definitely super helpful for me, man. I hope that it was a blessing and helpful to everyone else that was on the line. I'll keep the thread up for a moment, just for people to be able to grab your information. So, Joy, if you want to go ahead and put that in there right now,
Yeah.
that'd be dope. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Everyone, stay safe during this time. Um, we're all in this together. And yeah, man, we're gonna constantly be, again, doing this every single week, as much, as frequently as we can, to make sure that we're staying connected, making sure that we're able to bring you guys into conversations that are both edifying and helpful to everyone holistically. So, yeah, we appreciate your guys' time. Joy just dropped her practice down below. So obviously, if you Google that, you'll be able to get that. I think she's about to drop her email or number as well. Are you doing what is like the consultation process look like for you?
All right, coming back. I was typing. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Reach out to me via phone or email. If I do not answer right away, definitely leave a message and I'll connect with you within 24 hours and we'll schedule some time for us to connect. And again, those are complimentary 15-minute consultations just to discuss a little bit about what's going on. You guys can ask me any specific questions about the process and then we'll go from there.
All right.
All
Sounds
right.
good. Joy,
Thank you
enjoy
so
the
much.
rest of your day. Be safe. Everyone, y'all take care. We'll see y'all next week.